Mackenzie Goes Adventuring by J.L. Bauman. This free video edition is brought to you by Mortem Publications, and you may share it with anyone you wish. At the end of this production, you will find all of the information needed to purchase both the hard and soft covers of this book, as well as the library DVD edition designed for classroom and daycare center viewing. Thank you. And now, on to your adventure. Snookton was a happy town, full of Snookies, snooking all around. There were Snooky shops full of Snooky toys, for all the Snooky girls and boys. Most all of them worked at the Snookery, where they made all the things that Snookies need, like Snookytronics and Snooky Sonics, and not to forget, the Snooky Bionics. There were Snookies that made candy. There were Snookies that were handy. There was one named Sandy and one named Andy. There was even one named Randy. But the most pompous of all, and the tallest of all, was a Snooky they all called Stanley. Now Stanley was always strutting around, all schmancy and fancy throughout the town, with a dandy-top hat that couldn't be beat, and a pocketed vest that was oh so neat, for his job was to greet all the folks on the street, because he was their mayor elite. Then there was Sammy, the Snooky cop, who rode all around on a horse named Clop, who whacked all the Snookies with a Snooky crop whenever he whistled, and they would not stop. Now the fire Snookies looked for fires in a bright red truck with big black tires. As its engines grumbled and rumbled along, after looking about for a place to belong, it would always end up at the Snooky school, for the littlest Snookling even thought it was cool. Then one afternoon on a bright Snooky day, when the schoolteacher Snooky was done with their class, and the Snookies in math had been finished at last, and before all the Snookies were let out to play, she had one final thing to say. "You all go straight home," the teacher had said, "and make sure that you take the right path, for the snarfling Snarfle could get you, I dread, and then you will breathe your last. Why, he'll thump you and whump you and take you away, and he'll make you eat gruel, and you won't get to play. Then he'll roast you and toast you for lunch the next day, so you all go right home, and go home the right way." "Oh, pay no attention," one little girl heard, as a voice in her head said, "The teacher's a nerd, for I know my way home, and what does she know? She just doesn't know of a path I can go." So after the bell had ended the class, and the Snooky snooked out all faster than fast, "Are you going my way?" the little girl asked, to a shy timid boy who was standing nearby. "And which way is that?" he said in reply, with a think and a blink of his eyes. "It goes through the park, it's shorter that way, and I heard it is faster, so what do you say? Maybe we'll see some animals too, that live in the woods and aren't in the zoo." "I guess I could go," the little boy said, and away they went as the little girl led. "My name is Mackenzie, but they all call me Mac," she said as they left while they didn't look back. "My mom calls me Bobby, and my dad calls me Robbie, but everyone else calls me Jack," the little boy said with a tilt from his head, now scratching his chin with a grin as he said, "But nobody calls me Fred." "Well, I'll call you Fred," Mackenzie then said, as they got to a sign that read, "Park Ahead." The entrance was guarded by two big oak trees, and the trail right between them was easy to see, but they cautiously stopped all the same. "Now stay next to me, and don't leave my side," Mackenzie then said before going inside. So into the park they ambled away, just hoping to see something more than a tree. "Maybe we'll see some Snoopets today, as they play all day long and they hop around free," Mackenzie told Fred, while onward they tread. "Is that all we'll see? The Snoopets, I mean?" her little companion asked back quizzically. "Oh no, there is more. You just have to look. You just have to look in the crannies and nooks, and then look some more when you get to the brook," Mackenzie advised as his personal guide, which gave her, of course, a great sense of pride. So they shuffled and bumbled along on that day, while they snooked all about to just tarry away. Then the hummingbirds hummed as they buzzed overhead, as the flower beds waved out to Mac as she led, while Fred collected some rocks. And now twisting and winding and falling and climbing, while snooking about on the path as it crooked, the Snookies had finally discovered the brook. It bubbled and babbled and gurgled out loud as it smattered its wetness all over the ground. Then it spluttered and splattered and sprayed all around, while it fippled and rippled with trickling sounds. "And there is the bridge that goes over the creek," Mackenzie now said to her new buddy Fred. "I hear most of the time it just stays asleep. But once you get on it, it squeaks and it creaks. Then it moans and it groans, saying, 'Leave me alone, for my timbers are weak, and you'll fall in the creek and never again return home.'" Now Fred thought and he thought, while both of them stopped. "So if it goes down and we're standing on top, then it's into the drink we go plop?" "No, it's more like a ploop, I think I would say," Mackenzie told Fred with a smile on her face. Then all of a sudden, and no one knows why, a little white cloud blocked the sun from the sky, and with bustling, rustling, tussling sounds, up the wind blew the leaves right off the ground. Next out from the woods came a curdling cry, as both of them froze while their eyes opened wide. From the terrible, horrible sound that it cried, they imagined that something had died. So as the leaves fluttered, they shuddered again, for whatever it was, it came closer to them. Then it huffed and it puffed, and it grunted and growled, while they noticed it smelled even worse than it howled. "I think we should run," said Fred to his friend, "'cause this is no fun, and it's just not pretend." "I think we should too," replied his friend Mac, "before that big thing has a chance to attack, and both of us end up all stuffed in his sack." "Yeah, he'll snag us and bag us, and we'll never get back," Fred did agree with some serious dread, a rumbling and tumbling down the hill as they fled. So tumble and stumble and fumble they did, as they landed with a thump and a bump and a whump, smack in the front of the bridge. But now down from the hill, and right close behind, came the scariest, hairiest beast of all time, with his coal black eyes sunken deep in his head, and a breath that did smell of some nasty old bread. He chased them both down as they floundered and fled. "Then I'll get you," he cried as he charged on ahead, as he sniggered and snorted directly at Fred. However, all of a sudden, it stubbed its big toe, and screamed like a banshee, and hopped to and fro. Then it grunted and growled, and fell off the trail, and bunking its head, landed right on its tail. Now Fred and Mackenzie had gotten back up. Then Mac blurted out, "Come on, we're in luck. If we run and we run, and go faster than fast, we just might get over this old bridge at last." So they got to the bridge, but it started to sway, as it called out to them, "Feeling lucky today? Oh, please let us pass. We'll be eaten alive, for the Snarfle is coming and we'll never survive," Mackenzie replied as she pleaded and sighed. "We'll stay by the rail, for my timbers are weak, or you will be tossed right into the creek, and into the deep you will go," the rickety-crickety bridge told them so. Then all of a sudden, the bridge stopped a-swaying, as if it had granted the wish they were praying. So then quicker than quick, and splickety-splick, their little feet went a-plickety-plick, as onto the bridge they ran. So then streaking and reaching just over the creek, with a snarfling snarfle yet right on their tails, the bridge bounced all around as it twisted and creaked, and then into the deep he sailed. "I'll be waiting for you when you have to come back," he snarled and he snorted from the water below, "and when you return, it's into my sack, and then into my belly you'll go." "Oh, just let him whine," came a voice from behind a tree by the brook where they stood. "Would that you should be bad and not good. I'll punish you now, is that understood? For all of these woods are mine." Then out from the tree a shaman appeared, with a shield and a staff and his face painted weird, and standing right there with a feather in his hair, and wearing no shoes, 'cause his feet were all bare, he did stare at them both with a serious stare. "For I am the shaman who's guarding these woods, and I want to know now if you're bad or you're good," he stated as clear as he could. "Well, we try to be good, like all Snookies should, but I guess we got lost in the woods," Mackenzie explained, trying not to be blamed. "It's all a mistake," she then claimed. "Well, follow me then, and you will be fine, but stay on the trail this time. For if ever you stray and you wander away, you may never get home on this bright sunny day," the shaman now warned in a most direct way, as he shook out his staff and he questioned, "Okay?" "Okay," answered Mac as she nodded her head, when she then looked directly at Fred. "So where are your clothes?" asked Fred with a blink. "Did you get them all dirty and now they all stink? And your mom has them home being washed in the sink?" The shaman just stood there and thought for a while. Then he shook all around in a bum-puzzled style, to then answer Fred with the biggest of smiles. "We wear snookalo hides to cover ourselves, feed them snookberry fruit that they love oh so well, for the snookalos give us the fastest of rides, almost as fast as a snookbird can fly," he stated with eyes open wider than wide. "But now you must come with me," he decreed, "for it is now time that all three of us leave." Then spinning about with his staff in the air, he danced all around like a carnival bear. "If you show us the way, we are ready to go, 'cause I want to ride on a real snookalo," Mac then did declare at the end of his show. "Then keep up with me, and maybe you'll see where the snookalos live as they run around free, and the snookle bees gather our honey to eat, that help make our treats so delicious and sweet," the shaman did say as he then turned away to take Mac and Fred down a new path that day. Now once they had lost all sight of the creek, while snooking along more deeper than deep, they scooted along as fast as they could to stay on the path like they promised they would. Now when they all came to the top of the hill, where the forest gave way and the shaman stood still, he looked all around to the valley below, and then took out a horn and he started to blow. Then out from the bushes a woman appeared, with long flowing hair and the tallest of spears, wearing snookalo skins and a whip on her side. She then plainly asked, "Need a snookalo ride?" "Well, there you are, Drinda. I knew you would show. I see you're still guarding the village below," the shaman responded respectfully so. "Now what is this, Doc? Are those snookies I see, who seem to be hiding behind yonder tree?" "They're Snooky Town snookies who lost their way when the snarfling snarfle nearly caught them today, as over the bridge they both ran away, and now they are lost, I verily say. Come over here, snookies, and don't be in fear, for the guardian Drinda is standing right here. Now it is her job to guard this frontier, because she is the best with a whip and a spear," the shaman explained, both proudly and clear. So slowly the snookies came closer to see the guardian Drinda commanding the hill, and then they just stood there all quiet and still, as if they just swallowed a medicine pill. "Well," Drinda said, "so what are your names, and where are you going this fine summer day?" "They all call me Mac, but Mackenzie's my name. I was trying to go home and got lost," she did claim. "But a snookalo ride sounds so good to me now. Do you think there's a way I can get one somehow?" she asked with a curtsy and not with a bow. "Well, I used to be Bobby, but now I am Fred, and all that I want is some jelly and bread, because I am so hungry," he said. "Then we better get going," the shaman decreed. "Yes, we better get going," Miss Drinda agreed, "for my snookalo's tied to a snooky fruit tree, and I'm sure that he wants to be free," she concernedly noted with great urgency. So then to the back of the hill she did go, to return right away with a real snookalo. Sitting high on its back with the reins in her hand, she now rode on her beast as the law of the land. Then the snookalo stopped, and it shook its big head, as it snorted and snorted at Mackenzie and Fred, and with two little horns and some braids from its ears, it then made a bow, and a grin did appear. Then down to the village they wandered away, as they snooked through the corn and the fields full of hay, while a shaman did tell them again that fine day, "From this path you had better not stray." "We heard that before," Mackenzie admitted. "Yes, we heard that before," Fred submitted. Now over the hills and the dales they did go, while Drinda rode high on her big snookaloo, as it wimbled and wumbled and swayed to and fro, until finally she said to the snookaloo, "Whoa!" For the snooklet below had finally been found, with a path that directed them down to the town, through the patches of melons that lay all around, and the bushes with berries, each weighing a pound. Then reaching a brook that made gurgling sounds, they looked out at the posies that covered the ground. Still forward they wandered on yondering road, to pass through the flowers of crimson and gold, and all of the pods that were lived in as homes, till seeing a pod that was one to behold. And then the snookaloo paused. And so, we have now come to the intermission where you are all invited to go to the Snooky Snack Shack for a most delicious and sumptuous repast where you may experience the delight of having some Snooky Pops, Snooky Drops, or Snooky Cookies for little Snookies. You also might want to try a Snooky Truffle, a Snooky Waffle, or even our most popular Snooky Fluffle. Finally, please do not forget that we are still the proud home of the famous Snookberry Soda. And you know what the Snookies say, drink a Snookberry Soda today and energize your day. Now, please enjoy the intermission. And now we continue. Is everyone seated again? So what is this place? Mackenzie now asked, after all of them finally had halted at last. You will see soon enough, once we enter inside, the shaman did courtly reply. But first you must say to Miss Drinda goodbye, and thank her for being our guide. Thank you, Miss Drinda, politely Mac said. And I thank you too, added Fred. So after Miss Drinda had ridden away, Mackenzie now asked in a questioning way, So where are we going to stay? Now this place is called the Great Snooky Hall, the shaman did say to the Snookies in awe, where the chief Snooky rules, the tallest of tall, the biggest of big, and the smallest of small. And he will decide what will happen to you, and what he will say, I just don't have a clue. The shaman explained to Mackenzie and Fred, while into the hall they were led. So once they had gotten inside of the door, and now there were 3, and no longer 4, they looked all around and decided they'd found another new place to explore. There were bright-colored ribbons that flew everywhere, for the fluttering snoopers had circled the air, as they snooped for a perch that was empty and bare, while their colorful feathers waved out from their tails. Now upon the red carpet they quietly stared at all of the shields hanging neatly with care, while under each one was a hassock-like chair, with its gold-colored top, so it wasn't so bare, for one to sit down and be comfortable there. Now the biggest and brightest gold chair of them all was sitting way down at the end of the hall, and with torches of fire burning right by his side, the Grand Snooky sat, all regal and high. O Chief of the Snookies, I come here today, bringing Snooky Town Snookies who lost their way, the shaman explained without any delay. I grant you permission, now come closer to me, and bring forth these snookies, the chief did decree. So then they went up, all 1, 2, and 3, as Fred came up last, saying, "Don't forget me." "So what are your names?" asked the chief from his chair, as he looked down at them with a powerful stare. "My name is Mackenzie," she respectfully said, "and this is my bestest friend Fred." "And where are you from? I don't recognize you. I don't know you 1, and I don't know you 2. Perhaps you escaped from the Snooky Town Zoo, and I need to know this to decide what to do." The chief told them so with no further ado. "We're Snooky Town Snookies who lost our way when a snarfling snarfle tried to eat us today," Fred then exclaimed loudly, in total dismay. "Well, we are all happy you're not Snarfle Stew, but your parents will worry what happened to you. I think the solution cannot be more clear," he stated to them as he scratched his left ear. "For now I must rule. You cannot stay here," he decided without any cheer. "Well, we don't mind going," Mackenzie replied, "for all I want now is a snookalo ride." "And all that I want is some jelly and bread," Fred added to what Mac had said. "And so you shall have it," the chief did declare, as he shook his big scepter way high in the air. "A snookalo ride and some bread and some jelly, so Fred can leave here just a scratch in his belly. But next time your teacher says stay on the path, or maybe she tells you to finish your math, or whenever you're told that it's time for your bath, it's very important you finish your task, and you finish your task to the last." "Even when you are told to take out the trash?" asked Fred with a face full of grief. "Of course when you take out the trash," said the chief. "You finish your job to the last." "Well, we better get going," the shaman then said, "so I can get Fred now his jelly and bread, and Miss Drinda can give Mackenzie her ride while the sun is still shining outside." So on to the Snooky Exchange they all went, where the Snookies make jelly and bake all their bread, and sell all the food that the field Snookies grow to the Snookies who live in the snooklet below. Now the Snooky Exchange was oh so busy, with everyone running about in a tizzy, a-whizzing so fast that it made your head dizzy, as they traded their fares and their wares. Now some of the Snookies had carts full of berries, while others had baskets and taskets of cherries. Then others were trading their corn and their melons with bushels of Snooky fruit, all for the sellin'. Now we don't have much time to just tarry away, so we better see Fred gets his treat right away, for we still have a long way to go yet today, the shaman explained in a serious way. "This place is so big, it's as big as a barn," said Mac with her arms held out wide. "There's everything here that we grow on the farm," the colorful shaman replied. "And look over there," said Fred in surprise. "There's a jelly roll there and a Snooky fruit pie," he declared, not believing his eyes. So over he went with the greatest of haste to a big sign that read, "The Snook Muffin Place," which gave him, of course, a most happy face. Then after he hurried and scampered and scurried, to dart through the tables and chairs in a flurry, and scooting about in the greatest of hurry, he finally arrived, all topsy and turvy, directly in front of the bakery stand. There were Snooky fruit muffins and Snooky fruit pies, and a big Snooky cake that was higher than high. But the snookiest thing that did make his eyes wide was a Snooky fruit roll with some jelly inside. It was this that he wanted to try. "So how can I help you?" a voice now did ask, from behind the long counter all made out of glass. And just as the shaman and Mac had arrived, Fred then pointed out, "I want that one inside." "I think we can get it, along with 3 plates," the shaman responded without any haste. "How much for the big one so grand, for it looks like the tastiest thing in the land?" he now asked the baker behind the glass stand. "For the big one that everyone oogles and googles? Well, that one, fine sir, will cost you 3 snookles," the baker declared with a chest full of air, as he proudly presented the jelly roll there. "I find that the price is a fair one indeed," the shaman replied while he paid as agreed. Then with pastry in hand, all 3 did proceed to acquire a table and have a great feed. Now once Fred had properly taken his seat, the shaman gave him almost half of the treat, while he and Mackenzie were happy to eat the rest of the feast, all yummy and sweet. Then all of a sudden, once Fred got his cake, he munched it all down, leaving nary a trace. And after there wasn't a crumb on his plate, still there was jelly all over his face. "So how was your treat?" the shaman asked Fred. "It was better than best," the little boy said. "Well, now we must go while it's still light outside, so Mac can be given her snookalo ride. And here is a napkin to wipe off your face, for now we must leave this place," the shaman had said directly to Fred, while then getting up as onward he led. Then Mackenzie declared, getting off of her chair, "Oh, whoopity-oh, oh, dody-oh-do, I'm getting a ride on a real snookalo," as up from the table she rose all aglow to follow the shaman, with Fred right in tow. Now after they passed through the carts once again, and just when the pods had come to an end, the shaman did pause on a hill full of corn, while reaching on down to now take out his horn. Then he blew and he blew just as hard as he could, and then after he stopped, he now quietly stood, waiting for Drinda to come from the woods, as Mackenzie was hoping and wishing she would. Then riding atop of her snookalo high, and thrusting her spear way up to the sky, appeared guardian Drinda with nary a care, with her shiny black hair flying off in the air. Now as fast as the wind she rode down the trail, with her snookalos four all waving their tails, and next with a grumbling, rumbling sound, as her stamping, trampling feet hit the ground, and a grunting and thumping was heard all around, Miss Drinda rode thunder straight up to the mound. "We have to get going," Miss Drinda first said. "The two smaller ones are for Mac and for Fred, and the others for you, my fine feathered friend, to help get these snookies back home once again." So onto their beasties they pounced like a cat, right up to their saddles way high on their backs. Now looking around as there they just sat, Fred then got a thought, sitting right next to Mac. "I wonder if Drinda has brought any snacks." "So what if the snarfling snarfle attacks, and he takes us away all stuffed in a sack, and we end up his lunch and we never get back? Just how are we going to stop that?" cried out Mac. "Just how are we going to stop that?" "I think you should know, to make it quite clear," Miss Drinda began as she smiled ear to ear, "these snookalos here are their greatest of fears, so believe me, my friend, they will never come near. See, they're not very fast like the great snookalo, and they hate being stampled and trampled, you know," the shaman explained in a serious tone. "But now it is time that I think we should go, for my job is to get you back home." "Now pick up your reins," said Drinda with care, as she whipped out her whip with a definite flair. Then she twirled it and whirled it and waved it around, and made it go snap with a crackling sound. Then all of a sudden they left in a rush, with the snookies on high as they clung and they clutched to their snookalo saddles that bounced when they bucked, as Mac waved goodbye to the bright buttercups. Then they whinnied and neighed through the corn and the hay, while they clipped and they clopped and they clambered away, to a huffing and puffing the snookalo way, until right on the prairie they came. "Now this is the place where the snookalos roam," Miss Drinda called out as her snookalo groaned. "It's where all the snookalos feel they are home," she expressed in a thoughtful, affectionate tone. "If you look over there, there's a herd far away," she now pointed out in a gesturing way. "They're way at the end of that field full of hay, but we don't have the time for a visit today," she despondently said in a sorrowful way. "No, we don't have the time," the shaman agreed, as the snookalos once again picked up their speed. "For once we all get to the top of that hill, and get to the top of that hill we will, we'll climb from our saddles and get ourselves down, for over this hill is your home Snooky Town," he revealed as they rode homeward bound. So finally they got to the top of the hill, to pause for a moment, all quiet and still, and seeing the sun setting off in the sky, they realized now they should say their goodbyes. "Well, I guess we should go," said Mac in dismay, "but I'll never forget what I learned here today. I should pay good attention and listen in class, and make sure my work has been done to the last. And always remember, stay on the right path, she said in a courteous way. Oh, there is my house! I can see it from here, Fred excitedly said as he grinned ear to ear. Now, if ever you want a good snookalo ride, or feel that you need a professional guide, and provided your parents will say it's okay, you're welcome to visit back here any day, Miss Drinda did say in the kindest of ways. To have an adventure and seek inspiration is best understood with a good education, for knowledge you'll find is the best recreation, the shaman told them without hesitation. And whether you live on a mountain on high, or under the sea where the mersnookies hide, or dwell in a town where the factories lie, you should never forget you are never alone, as long as you still have a place to call home. Then all of them parted and went on their way to go home to their families and greet the next day. The end. Finally, To Go A-Snooking. Both hard and soft copies of Mackenzie Goes Adventuring can be purchased through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all other fine bookstores throughout the land, and across the ocean as well. The fully licensed DVD copy of this production is also available for library use, as well as all your local schools, churches, and daycare centers for theater-style viewing. To obtain your own personal copy, or get answers to any other questions you may have, email contact@postmortempublications.com. And thank you very much for visiting our site.